Hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. I'm Tanya E. Hood, a wife, a mother, and an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, it simply means I've worn a lot of different hats in my life that have helped me develop a full range of strategies and actionable steps that I've used to help my clients make a strategic impact, both personally and professionally, to have better than what life has been giving them. Red Alert Diaries is based on the life lessons from my premier book, Red Alert. Is He the One? The pocket guide to finding the love of your life. And if you read my book, you already know that I got married at 21. And after 11 years of marriage, I found myself going through a divorce, having to raise my two sons alone. To reset my life and survive my divorce, I took the time I needed to get to know me better, which opened me up to new love again. So now I'm in a new marriage to the love of my life and my best friend, which just proves there is life after divorce. On this podcast, we have conversations that's real talk, marriage, divorce, money, and legacy. And I want you to join me on the journey. And for today, we have a special guest joining us, Dr. Lana Husbands. Hey, Lana, how are you today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, before we begin, I have got to introduce this amazing woman to all of you. Lana is a fully licensed registered medical practitioner in the Barbados. She has over 20 years of experience in all major fields of medicine, such as pediatrics, obstetrics, gynecology, emergency medicine, general surgery, public health, and internal medicine with a certification in resuscitation. She has experience working in private specialist hospitals and public emergency in the UK. To top all this off, y'all, she has managed her own practice for the past 14 years. And her most recent honor and privilege has come from working as a frontline medical officer from the onset of pandemic COVID, for which she and her team, the frontline workers, received a humanitarian award for service this past April. Lana, I want to say thank you so much for your service and truly appreciate all that you give. Would you like to share a little more about yourself with our audience?
Hi, Tanya, and hello to all of your listeners. This is just an absolute privilege. Thank you so much. So excited to be here. I was, as you said, born and raised in Barbados, Caribbean islands, just the most easterly and tiny island compared to the rest of the Caribbean. But and in my family, the family I was raised in, I'm so grateful for because it was just, matriarch, grandmother, grandfather, and the rest of the household. Really a family of love and kindness. And my grandmother is a powerhouse of a lady. And my aunt who raised me, kindest person I've ever known. And they raised me up. Yeah, usual Caribbean discipline for sure. But values, and principles that I take with me to this day. So I treasure that every single day, and I'm grateful for what I have been able to use with it.
I understand that because my grandmother also raised me. And those
Oh,
values that you get, oh, they last a lifetime.
mm-hmm.
Those are the things that we often have to tap into when things happen. And I see you have a fur baby. Can you tell us a little more about your family unit?
Oh, yeah. So Phoenix, that's Phoenix in the back, and Scarlett is somewhere else. Phoenix is 12 and a half, and that's really old for a cat. She's like in his 60s, but he's a joy of my heart. And what's really special about him is I he was found in a field and just raised up with a human, which was just me, who had to learn everything and basically Google everything about a cat. And he's got such personality. So, and Scarlett, she turned up at my house. I guess the memo was, come here and you'll get fed. And so he's with me for 2 years now, 3 years. Udo's a personality. They're my children. I don't have like the human ones, they're my fur babies. For
I
sure.
understand that. I don't have any pets anymore, but there are moments when we have to recognize our family expands a little bit further, and the heart that we have to share and care and give are the things that we do on a normal basis for others. So, with that, tell us a little more about what inspires you.
Well, Tanya, for sure, my faith. My faith has definitely kept me going, especially during rough times. I am single, but I am, you would say I'm divorced, but I don't label myself as divorced, because I just think that was one time as in the past, and I can move forward from there, and I am moving forward with gratitude. So my faith has kept me going, and my God has definitely blessed me with things like being here with you, for example, on this podcast, guiding me, correcting me for sure, all that discipline. And then the example of Jesus just being selfless, just trying to work on that every single day. And as I've grown older, and as time has gone on, I really realized how much my grandmother's example, of those principles and the work ethic and being on time, and just caring about people. And then my aunt, as I mentioned, I'm still trying to get right how she does that kindness thing so well. And I'm trying to be as kind as I can, and, realize that everyone has a journey, and their journey is to be respected and acknowledged and cared for just as much as you would like I'd like my journey to be respected and cared for. So I'm ever grateful. And as you see me with one cat, and I talked about the other cat, but I love nature. I just love going outside. I love being outdoors. I love realizing how animals, nature, it reminds me to come back to the now. I think embracing the now, being in the now, is so important. Uh, we guys get lost, and for me, it's so important to bring myself back there. And that's why I tell you, my cats just teach me how to be in the now, and nature does that as well. So getting away from all the hustle and bustle, all the stresses, to just, if I feel like I'm scattered all over, come back to now. And you see the peace and justice in nature. And I just love animals, and that reminds me of a God of justice. And that reassures me that I don't have to go it alone.
That's the piece that I had to learn and discover. So you already heard some of my story. I
Mm-hmm.
understand not wanting to have labels. Sometimes it helps people get a better clarity. So being divorced and remarried, but not letting yourself be stuck with the
Mm-hmm.
definition of some of those labels. Too many times, people want to define you with some generic element of what the label actually means and dictate that that's your being. I am so grateful that you shared that the creator of the universe is your inspiration, because it was God that taught me that even though I went through a relationship that had a breakdown, that was not a true reflection of my inner being. We were designed to be relational. And even though that relationship did not work out the way I intended, the way I hoped, the way I desired, who I am at the core of my being is amazing, is loving and giving. And your statement about wanting to have all the animals in the front yard, that just speaks to the testament of your love that God has poured inside of your soul. As a result of that, I know that being an individual that has that much love has had to be why you have gone through wanting to expand your education. Because in addition to all the educational elements, the accolades that you have, and that's a lot of stuff, Miss Lana,
Thank
you
you.
still chose to go get a postgraduate degree in gerontology. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, that seemed to have come out of like nowhere, because I wasn't expecting it. But again, it's again the transition in life, and watching my grandmother and being with her for a few years, and seeing how the aging process affected her, and then working and being with her, and having to do that full time, and having to then come home. Although she's strong, and she's strong as ever, she's 90 now, but it was a few years ago. But just realizing, and then talking to clients who are caregivers, and every one of them has said, I am so tired, I am exhausted. And I felt that exhaustion, to the point where I almost ran off the road one night because it was just so sleepy, just doing this, doing that, doing that. Not necessarily for her, but being conscious that she's there. And then what do I do next? How can I get through this? What positive thoughts can I bring? What can I do for caregivers? And I thought, well, I can't start. Who do I start with? Well, the older persons always seem to be marginalized, especially, while in Caribbean cultures, it's less now than it was before, because, we were all a integrated family. Now, grandmothers, grandfathers, they're kind of relegated to, in a sense. And with an Asian world, what are we going to do? Are we going to just ignore persons who are getting older? Just going to ignore caregivers who are fatigued? That to me was just a sad thing. And remember, I was thinking it's so unjust, and justice really is something that I feel passionate about. So I thought, what's the most just thing I can do? What can I do? So that's how I went into it, feeling the way I felt and wanting to just be a source of help for caregivers. So my course is geared towards caregivers with the view of having them put on their oxygen mask first, take charge of their own care so that they can feel more empowered, feel less exhausted, do fulfill their own goals and dreams, and not just feel as though, well, life is passing them by, and I'm stuck here. And that's the worst feeling that, a human being can have, feeling as though there's nowhere to go from here. So that's really I think the heart core of my wanting to do this course, that where that really came from. Does
I'm
that
glad
make
that you
sense?
shared that you have a course because sometimes we got to ask the question. Nobody often thinks about the challenging thought of who cares for the caregiver. We
Yes.
often expect people to show up when we need them, but we don't often take the time to see how they're really doing. Who really takes a moment to ensure that the person that shows up day in and day out, just because they put on their superpower of love, of giving, of support, they still need it as well. And sometimes we forget that. And as we get older, especially as we get older, and you have always been the one that has cared for everybody, like your grandmother taking a moment to raise you in addition to raising a whole other generation before you. Who takes the time? Because you're so used to seeing them sit in that position. You're so used to them functioning in that capacity. You don't often think, where do they need help? How can I get support? And if you have the same heart to serve, then how do you get support along the way? So I want to have a quick conversation about that because I know with you having a course, going through this in part of your life's journey, how can you give somebody some insight of what one thing would you tell them today that they could actually implement to be a more effective caregiver? Can you share?
Well, and as I said before, put your oxygen mask on first. And that's great. And do that guilt free. Because I think with caregivers, as you said, it's all about superpowers. It's all about me doing everything for everybody else and getting this done and getting work done and, being there and cooking and taking out the garbage and just trying to get everything done. And it can just spiral. You can just feel spiraled out of control. And that affects your sleep. It affects how you eat. It affects how you feel about yourself. So taking deep breaths, and that's why I love having a morning routine. So my morning routine is like, I must do this. It's a habit. So I'd say setting that as a habit, whatever habit you have, set a habit to always do one thing that is going to bring you back into the now. So even if it's a 2 minute, 3 minute deep breaths and calm, visualizing your goals, prayer essential for me personally. I know a lot of people really find that to be their rock as well. And then just 5 minutes of exercise, even if for me it's just a stretch and a stretch and a twist and a turn, and that's all I can do. And it sets a tone for the day because it's a habit, and then my body knows, okay, we're going into this. So habits are something that we can do, and take time to like know what your habits, what you really like to do, that you can make a habit of, that really, I don't know, clues you in, tickles your fancy, as I say, just gets you going, makes you thrive, and making that a habit. So just knowing that it takes time, 3 months at least, to really set a good habit, but that your body will thank you in return. No, you know what I mean?
I get it. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I recently shared on this podcast creating the habits that are good for you because we have habits and a lot of people just do them
Mm-hmm.
automatic. So you're not clear. You need to have some things that are automatic. I wake up super early. My husband says super early, but not as early as I used to. There was a moment where God consistently woke me up at 3 o'clock because there was so much chaos that was happening in my life. If I did not get up at that time, I couldn't function through the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave me a moment to be centered. And because I was meeting with the creator of the universe, that
Mm-hmm.
gave me a sense of knowing that no matter what I go through the rest of this day, I will get through it. And so I shared in the previous podcast that it takes 100 days. And I got that out of the Bible. You see, the thing that I love about the Bible is that my grandmother called it your basic instruction book before leaving earth. And I
Yeah.
didn't understand all of what that meant. But when I
Mhm.
went through the chaos of my divorce and God had to pick me up off the bathroom floor of that two-bedroom apartment, I learned a little bit better what it meant. I got a little more understanding about how to walk through the process of getting whole and recognize that what you said, setting aside that time, even if it was 5 minutes. Because when I started this journey, a minute was way too long. So I lived my life after my divorce moment by moment because I couldn't think. I struggled with what to do next. And because I found myself in a position having to figure out on my own to raise two little boys, I had to take on two roles. And I didn't understand because I never wanted to be a single mother. But
Mhm.
the thought process that he was there at some point, and there were things that he did to pick up. I was
Mhm.
just hoping somebody would pick up the little pieces. So I had to create new habits. And I called it the mommy moment. So when I got home from work, what I would end up having the boys do, and it took a while because your children want you when they want you, when they want you, and where everybody has got home, I had to create. And these are the things that I know it's got to be something that you teach. You have to
Mhm.
care for yourself in advance.
Yeah.
Before the moment actually arrives, you got to put some measures in place to support you. What I ended up doing was putting a few things together. I had snacks already prepared, the juice was already prepared, and I let the boys know mommy needs 5 minutes. I eventually grew it to 30 minutes. But what you said was important. Take some time. And I had to set aside early morning time and I had to set aside decompression time after work
Mhm.
to transition so that I can be better for my children, be more whole for my children. And I had a space where I was no longer in the overwhelm.
Girl, girl, that sounds like, you got to climb the mountain, but a little piece at a time, one rock at a time. So seriously, even if sometimes people do it the night before, whatever, if you can take the time out in the morning, as you said, or night before, but it just feels like all you have the energy to do. I know because you're hurting inside and your body still says, time still says, well, I still have to go on. But you're broken, shattered. How are you going to get moving when time says, well, I'm not stopping? How do you get moving? So it's the little bit, and then let me tell you, being propped up by God, being propped up by His Word, is it just takes you out. And just remember, there are people who've gone through this. So just cover me, just give me what I need just for today, just for this minute, so I can get to the next minute. It will wear you out. It will shrink you and you don't realize how much you feel shrunken until you're exhausted beyond belief. So guilt-free, stress-free, without that overwhelm, without feeling disempowered, empower yourself by saying, it's okay for me to take care of my feet today. It's okay for me to sit back and drink a cup of tea and relax today. It's okay for me to delegate some duties. It is okay for me to put my oxygen mask on first.
I'm glad you're saying that it's okay because too many times we are led to believe those are selfish behaviors. So
Yes.
if you are going to make a moment just for you in the middle of everything that's happening, that makes you selfish, the way people want to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And often, if you don't meet someone's expectation of when they decide they need you at their moment in their time, not considering anything else that you personally have going on, how do we help individuals get past that guilt? Because sometimes people are guilted into doing more than they want, longer than they desire, and they get to the place where you were talking about earlier, finding
Mm-hmm.
themselves almost running off the edge of the road. We got to get to a better position, but how do we help us? Because you personalize your course to the person that you're working with. What would you say to that person to get past the guilty moments that people try to throw in their hearts?
I'd say the first thing to do is set boundaries. I think we all have to know where our line is drawn. And that part of ourselves that says, no, I cannot do that right now. And with kindness, it doesn't have to be, a flat, no, I'm not going in. Just know where you belong, where you want to be, set boundaries for yourself. Okay, I'm going to do 10 minutes of this for me, and then I will get back to doing something else for someone else, or I will take an hour to go out with my friends and let someone else take over, or ask a friend, or seek help from somewhere else. It is okay, but let others know. When you start setting the boundaries and you start to say, I am going to do this. Oh, I'm coming back now. I'm going to go and do 10 minutes of this, or I'm going into my room and just dance or whatever. And you dictate, not dictate, might maybe the wrong word. Maybe you just let everyone know with kindness. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this for me. Just coming back a minute. That's a boundary. And I've heard all along so many wise words, but one of the wisest words I've heard was, you tell people how to treat you by the way you show up, by how you treat yourself. And if we set boundaries, kind boundaries, then it lets persons know, okay, you get respected more, and they actually fit in with your schedule better. And it's better to get along with someone who has that level of self-respect and self-care, because then they then come with respect as well. And so it becomes like it's okay. We can be friends, but I have my line.
That part right there, because my grandmother taught me, and I just think it's her generation, because a lot of people attribute it to Maya Angelou, but my grandmother was the first person I heard it from. You teach people how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
We often forget some of the wise moments with my grandmother. Now, she helped out a lot of people. And for the life of me, I could not figure out how she was able to do it. But she was calm, going through the process of supporting all these different people. And in the beginning, with my desire to support, my desire to help, I was a little frazzled, trying to do so much. And I want to challenge the thought that you were saying, dictate. Oh, we have to dictate. If you do not dictate the moment, that gives you a thought process to have a little bit of command and control. Because, especially for those of us that are supportive, that are giving, have a heart to serve, we have to sometimes pull up that element about who we are to meet the goal, to meet the metric, and be okay to let the leader in us show. You're already leading. Some of us forget when we're leading from the back of the room. It's okay to put yourself in position to be in the front of the room and then
Mm-hmm.
share what needs to be done. That's some of the pieces that those of you that listen to regularly, that's part of what I teach. But this is part of what you are helping people go through. How long is your course, Lana? And what else are you giving individuals to empower them? Now, I know we don't want to talk too much because you have people that can join your course right here, right now, today. Tell us a little bit more about how people can join the course and how long it takes for them to participate in it.
All right. So I am so excited to have an empowered, not exhausted course for primarily female caregivers who are also working full-time or part-time. And they can contact me at my email address, lana@lanaannmd.com. And we can chat, and we can maybe do a coaching call. So what I want to say is the 6-week program will takes caregivers through how to get better sleep, how to take care of your face, your feet, how to exercise, how to put in good nutrition, how to have a social life, all guilt-free, all empowering yourself, how to make sure that you know how to meditate and give yourself a wind down, a stretch, a timeout, a safe space, how you can do that. And then with that in mind, and knowing how important it is, and just wanting to give back, my offer would be for one of your guests, anyone who signs up for the course, a free 30-minute coaching call. Talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever your stressors are, and we'll chat and I'll see how I can best help you to fit yourself in along your schedule, set your own boundaries, and be able to thrive despite the environment, or in spite of, I could say, the environment. And also engage with family as well to establish that relationship, so you feel as though you're going into this role, this superpower role, you could say, but feeling empowered from within so that, you can continue to do that. What I think is a heroic job.
It is a heroic job. And it takes a strong person to do it because sometimes when you find yourself, and a lot of people during the pandemic stepped into that
Yes.
role because they kind of had to. Some, it
Mm-hmm.
comes as a natural gifting. For others, it's something that you got to grow into and learn. And if you don't have the skill set or the tools to be able to maximize the use of that, it can break you. So you all have just heard Lana is Dr. Lana. It's giving you all a special gift. Take advantage of it. You will find her information located at the bottom. Contact her so that you can at least get an idea of where to start, what to do, and how to move into your next position. Because we don't often have enough people that will take their time to pour into us. And you all have heard the special accolades that she has, over 20 years of experience to give you some insight now. And especially as we round out the last of 2022, people are going through the end of the year feeling the burden still of what has taken place all year long. And this is also the time period, unfortunately, that too many people end up deciding that the burden is too heavy and they decide to take their lives. Do not think that you have to walk this alone. I want to challenge you and encourage you to ask somebody for help, to stand in the moment to say, this is what I need, even though you are always the one that someone has to go through and choose to go to because you're available. Recognize what Dr. Lana just said. You can pause, take that time, set the boundary, and move yourself into a better position so that you can do what you love to do, be a better support. Dr. Lana, this has been such great information, and there's so much more that we can talk about, but I only have but so long on the podcast. Can you give us one final thought that you can leave with my audience today that they can take with them into the brand new year?
I'd say find a way to always keep your oxygen mask on. Put it on first. Do it guilt-free. Take 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes, and you gradually expand that. So if you start with 5 minutes and you say, "Well, I've done this for myself," you'd be amazed at how much more empowered that makes you feel, and you can go from there. You get better sleep, better relationships, more time for yourself, and thrive and be happy.
All right. Well, Dr. Alana, thank you so much for being here. And now, for those of you that have heard, if you don't remember anything else that has been shared today, here's the one thing we want you to know. Challenge yourself to love you more. There's not a selfish element if you choose to take the moment to love on you the way you love on everybody else. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, you know to reach out to Dr. Lana for her 6-week course to give you some extra pieces that you can have poured into you. And for those of you that want to talk about some other elements of what I typically do, you know to go to my website, tanyaehood.com. There you can click under the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.